How you all doing? Ralfy here again. Just get me face. You caught me in the workshop once again, and behind me, look, you can see a nice Chevrolet Suburban V8 fucking 6-litre monster. Unfortunately, it's suffering from the dreaded rust. So, in this video, I'm going to show you how we chop all the shit out, replace it with good steel, make it look prettier, and protect it. So hopefully, it'll last another 20 years before it needs to be done again. Yeah? Thanks for watching. See you in a bit. Right then, here we go. Let's have a quick walk round. Nice and shiny, really clean car actually. 6-litre V8. Unfortunately, as I said, look at that scabbiness there, look. We're going to need to do something about that. We can't see the full extent of it, excuse me, because the side steps, that's the other side which is showing more. Now, I know from experience that once we get down to it and get these side steps off, like I have here, then chances are things are going to be far worse than they first appeared. Look, we can see that scabbiness is now extending along quite badly, and it's paper thin there, yeah? So what I like to do is use the tapping stick and give it a bit of a sound out, yeah? Don't be shy. If it's not good steel, then it's going to fuck up when you're hitting it with the hammer. If it is good steel, then it gives you a good indication as to where you're going to be chopping out to. So it never hurts to go round and have a good whack just to see what you're dealing with before you start. And this is what we ended up with once I'd finished tapping it. Look at that. So from a little bit of scabbiness on the good side to rough as fuck. Now what I'm doing, I'm sanding back the paint, just removing the paint back to good steel, so it gives me a true indication of where I can cut to and what I'm going to have to chop out to get rid of all that nasty rot. Look, so we're just cleaning along. Don't worry about sanding the metal down because we're going to be chopping it out. We just want to get through the paintwork into clean steel, and from there we can see exactly where we're at when it comes to trimming it out and replacing it with good. So I've got like a 60 grit flat wheel on the electric sander, and I am just stripping paint really. Because the surface is so rough, we don't want to use anything that's going to be damaged by it, so the sander's a good option. Here you can see, nice and clean steel all the way around the edges of the damage. There's actually a factory seam there that we can work to. And what we have exposed is these spot welds, yeah? So we're going to be cutting into the panel to remove the rusty steel. And I'm going to take it right back to this seam, which is spot welded. Right, so you saw those spot welds that got exposed when I cleaned the old paint off and everything off that panel. Now, the rest of the panel we're going to cut with a cutting disc on a grinder. Dead simple, dead effective. But the spot welds present a bit of a challenge. We can grind the steel off around them and then clean them off flush. So we've got a surface to work with, or we can use a spot weld drill, which is what I'm going to use. I've got one here, look. A little bit different to a regular drill. I don't think the camera's going to focus, but we'll try my best. Look. It's not having it, is it? They've got a wiggly, funny shaped end. Purposely made. You can see that quite a bit of difference between that and a regular drill. But what that'll do is work like a little saw. It'll centre on the spot weld without skidding about all over the place on the weld, and it'll cut all of the weld off, and it should break away pretty clean. We're going to need hammer and chisel to part it properly, but it gives us a good basis for fitting the new panel. Okie dokie, so we've took that back to good metal, so we've cleaned all the paint off basically, so we can see exactly what we're working with, and we can work out how much we've got to cut out to get rid of the rust. Yeah, all I'm going to do is take a measurement from one end to the other, and then I can transfer that measurement onto the repair panel, trim out the piece that I need, and I know it'll be the right size. Dead simple. All we've got to do is measure it off, and I'm going to want 25.5 inches. I'm going to trim off the back of the panel, yeah, and then we can go from there. So we've trimmed that end off because we know we don't need it. We measured a 25.5 and we've used a bit of masking tape as a guide so we can get a pretty clean straight cut. Yeah, I've also gone to liberty of marking across the top there because I know that's as far round as I need the repair panel to come. And we're going to use the trusty old cut-off saw and trim it up. Obviously you've got to be safe and careful throughout this whole process, which is something I've not touched on, but wear the right gear, do it safe. I'll trim this up and then we'll offer it up and go from there. Okie dokie, so we've got the new piece out. Yeah, I've had to alter these cutouts that are for the bolt holes for the side step because this aftermarket repair panels, it don't match up. I don't know if it's for the other side because they're both kind of the same, but anyway, not a problem. Well, all I'm going to do now is offer it up to the repair, get it where I want it, and then I'll mark round it with my trusty marker pen, chop round the line, yeah, being sure to leave all of the marker pen line on there, don't cut that off, otherwise you'll have a mega gap. Drill out those tricky spot welds that we talked about, and then we should be ready to trim up, make sure this fits and tack it into place. So now we've got that all marked up and ready to cut, we're going to use a little disc cutter just to carefully cut that out. What I'm not doing here, but what I often do, is use my left hand with a glove on just to shield the sparks from flying everywhere. Just take your time, follow that line, and you'll work through it in no time at all. Then it's on to the spot welds. Yeah, so we're going to drill those out with a bit of a wiggle using the spot weld drill so we can free them off without too much fucking about. A little bit awkward under there, but we're getting in and we're getting it done. And it should free up any second now. There you go. Boom. Sorted. Okay. Alright, I'm raising my voice a bit because the compressor's kicked in. There's the old bit. There's what's left of the old bit. And there is a big fuck off gaping hole, which we'll be filling with the repair panel once we've tried it up and trimmed it to shape. Easy peasy. Okie dokie, all cleaned up. Now we're going to give everything a good coat of this zinc rich primer. It helps stop it rusting where the joins are, where we can't get in with any wax oil or other rust preventative when the job's finished. Always a good idea. I like to give everything a good few coats, including the new bit that we're going to put in. Righto, excuse me. So we trimmed that up, we primed the inside of the new panel, we primed where the joints are going to overlap and all that shit, yeah. There is actually access afterwards to get a pipe in and feed some wax oil. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use wax oil rust preventative inside of this. We call them sills, don't we, in the UK, but they're known as rocker panels in the States, yeah. And they're purely cosmetic as well. They tend to be structural on European cars because they don't have a chassis or a chassis, but because this is a big fuck off Yank Chevrolet, it's got a full chassis. So what we're doing is not structural. That said, we're going to do it fucking solid as fuck, you know what I mean? So basically, what I've done, I've got this panel clamped in now, the repair piece is clamped, there's a little clamp underneath, just holding it about where we want it, yeah? And then what I do is start in one corner. So I've got this corner bob on, good for a tack, and I will use a little steel rule to move it and get the overlap right, or no overlap we don't want, get the joint right, yeah? I'll also use a small hammer and chisel to knock things in and tweak things about and just get it, just the best we can get it when we tack it, which is what I'm going to do now. All I'm looking to do is put a few tacks along this top edge, and then I'll drop down the sides, and then we'll do those spot welds, yeah? So we've drilled holes ready to put the fresh spot welds in. The panel that we're welding to is all cleaned up and ready to take welds. We're not going to go mad with these tacks because we don't want to distort the panel. I'll get a few tacks on and then I'll show you how we weld it up. So, glove up, just these things run up. I use a MIG welder for this, nice and cool. The gas keeps the welds cool, really easy to use. And off we go, yeah. So I'm going to go a little tack in this corner. Just like that. That'll hold it now. I'm going to turn my mask down a bit, well up a bit, because it's a little bit bright. And now I'm going to feel along, and I can see that this repair panel's coming out. There's a bit of a lip there, so we'll get a tapping stick. We'll tap it just to get it a bit better, and then we'll get another tack on, which I'm going to go there. Yeah, and we keep doing that all the way along the panel, go around the sides, and then we'll get those spot welds. Okay, so now we've tacked it all up. We've got a couple of spot welds, maybe 3 or 4 underneath, yeah. And we're ready to weld. Now what we're not going to do is just weld all the way along. That'd be bad. It'd distort the panel, put a wave in it, and it'd look shit when we're finished and give us more work. So what we're going to do is join the dots. Maybe do this one, maybe come along, do this one on the end, come back, do that one, and dot them around here and there, letting them cool down in between goes until we've filled them all up, and then we'll be ready for sanding. Okay, so we've done it. We've welded it all up, okay, all the way along. You'll notice that it is far from being the prettiest, tidiest bit of welding that you've ever seen, and that's to be expected. That's okay, you know. We're going to run into gaps where we didn't think there were. We're going to run into thin steel one side, thick steel the other, and blow little holes. It's normal. It's absolutely fine. You know, you just keep plugging away, build it up with weld, make sure that there's no bits you've missed. And now we're going to clean it back with the old flat wheel, 60 grip flat wheel on the sander. Get rid of all that horrible, fugly, pigeon shit looking weld, which is fine, and then take it from there. So hopefully we won't have to do much patching in with the welder. Everything will come out ready for a nice skimmer filler. So here goes sanding it down with that flat wheel. God, I'm coughed all the way through this video. Bless me. We're just taking it nice and easy, keeping the disc nice and flat. You see I'm bringing my gloved hand up there just to try and stop the worst of the sparks flying towards the door card and the interior trim of the vehicle. We could mask it up before this and box it off with paper and whatnot, but I'm not sure about the fire hazard, to be fair. I'm quite happy doing it this way. Use the guard on the grinder to direct the sparks away from the precious things, and just take your time and get it nice and flat. Okay, here we go. So we've sanded it all off. Nice and smooth and shiny. We've also taken all of the paint off the repair panel. So we've got a nice key for any filler and any paint that we're going to add at a later stage. And you can see those fugly welds are now fine. You know, we're a little bit low there. That's fine. We've got to skim it with filler. Maybe a little bit low there. But I'm not going to fill that with weld. There's not a crack there. Don't know why the camera shows it. That's just where the two surfaces weren't exactly aligned. And I've taken the weld off and it's showing that discrepancy, which is fine. Absolutely fine. Don't be worried about that at all. We're going to give this all a good skim of filler, and then we're going to block it down, prime it, paint it, and Bob's your uncle. That is all the metal work done. Okay, so onto the filler. There's a few important things to note when you're mixing filler. Excuse me. One of the most important ones is mix them on a proper surface. Yeah, these onion boards now, dog shit cheap. Don't use an old cardboard box or a bit of old paper or something like that, because what that'll do is start to suck up and draw in the resins from the filler, so it'll fuck up your curing, and it's just not right. These are dog shit cheap, like I say, and once you've mixed, you just tear it off, throw it away. Second one is, work your fucking hardener before you put it out. Yeah, it can separate in there, and we want all the oils to be smooth throughout. So give it a good wobble about, and then we're going to use a pea-shaped or pea-sized amount of hardener to a golf ball of filler. That's probably about right. If you put too much in, then your filler's not going to set at the right consistency. If you put too little in, obviously it's not going to go off. Another really important thing is when you're mixing it, then smooth it, drag it and pull it. Don't chop it, because if you chop it, you're going to get air in there, and we don't want any air bubbles, yeah? We want it to be all smooth throughout. So it's really fucking cold today, and this filler's putting up a bit of a struggle, but all we're doing is dragging it out. Keep dragging it out, turning it over, dragging it out, until we can see that all of that hardener is evenly mixed. So just drag it out, keep it nice and smooth, yeah? That way you won't get the bubbles, you won't get the problems, and you can really see that it's been properly mixed, and it'll be ready to go. So onto the panel. All we're going to do is put a thin layer of filler all the way along the joins, yeah? We know that the panel itself is pretty much the right shape. Not something we need to worry about. We're just making sure where we've joined it follows the right shape, and all of these little bits and bobs from welding, or where we've tapped it about to make it fit properly, they're all smoothed out and gone. What we don't want to do is lay on like a real thick shit ton of filler. It's going to crackle, it's not going to sit properly, and it's going to cause us problems later. We want this job to last another 20 years, so we'll drag out a little bit, get it on there, and I'm using my left hand so you can see a bit better, and we're just going to pull it along, yeah? Push it into them gaps, pull it along. We're going to do that all the way along, and we're going to get it so eyeball it so it looks about right. You've not got to get it perfect. Don't worry about being a Mary fucking berry and being able to ice cakes. All we're doing is giving ourselves a nice layer of filler that we can then shape to get rid of all the imperfections that we've created making that joint. So get the worst of the extra off, yeah, and just smooth it in. You can see how fucking cold it is. You can see my breath. It's not ideal conditions to be doing this, but these are the conditions that we're working in. So just like that, nice and smooth, nice and smooth. All the way along we're going to do that, and we've got a good 10-15 minutes, probably a little bit longer in this temperature, of working time, and then we've got to leave it for a few hours to cure. If we're in the middle of summer, then an hour, maybe a little bit longer. I'm going to leave this till tomorrow probably, just to be extra safe that it's proper gone off. Okay, I've not left it till tomorrow. I checked it after about an hour, and despite my initial concerns, I reckon it is good for a go. So what I'm going to use is 180 grit on a hand block, yeah, and we're going to block that off. I'm not sure that this will capture on a video, to be fair, so 180 grit on there. And all we're going to do, I'll do it again, I'll do it left-handed from this way, is I'm going to follow the contours of the panel, yeah, and we're just going to give it a good blocking off, keeping it nice and flat, work all the way along, and we're going to work it down until it's nice and fucking smooth. That's going off really nice actually. I'm a bit cramped in there, and I'm not sure you're going to get it all properly on film, but I'm going to block it right off. You should be wearing a mask because it is dusty work, but it's not too dusty, and I need to be able to talk. So 180 grit, get that nice and smooth, follow the line of that curve round, yeah? So I'm going to pull it round, I'm going to work it like this as well. All the way along, until it's all knocked off and nice and smooth. Dead simple. And there we go. So all the filler rubbed off, nice and smooth, showing all the low spots. I'm just checking it underneath a little, just to get it as good as we can get it. I'll give the rest of it, these areas, a go with a 240 grit, just to key it up, and then we'll get masking and we'll get priming. Spot on.